And the third thing is just don't be shy. You will have an accent. Every international person has an accent. It's just about making that accent understandable to the audience. My name is Ivan. I come from Bulgaria. I came to Southampton in 2015 to study a Bachelor of Science in Business Philosophy. After completing my studies at the business school, I was not ready to finish studying because I loved writing. I loved studying about business, not really implementing that into the practice. So I decided to do a master's degree in international management. And now I'm in my second year of PhD, studying entrepreneurship. In specific, I study the role of luck in entrepreneurial success. That's a little bit about me. Now, currently, I passed my first year review, and I'm officially a second year PhD student.
Wow, that's great. Okay, I'm also curious how it feels to be an international student. Like you are doing your degree from undergraduate till now, PhD, you're still doing it, but in the same university. So how does it feel? Is that sometimes you feel it's boring, or there is always something new for you to explore?
Southampton is a really international city. I saw some statistics that more than 60% of the population is actually international. So Southampton is a mixed bag of people from all around the world, and this is what I love mostly about it. The second thing that I love about Southampton is that it never gets boring because it's a middle-sized city. It's not too small, but it's not too big either. So it's not crazy like cities like Manchester, Birmingham, but it's not as small as Winchester, for example, which is a historical place. So there's always something. There's the theater, there's concerts, you can go to Wesky, you can go to the ocean, there's coffee shops, restaurants. During the winter, it's really lively because there's so many students around. And you can always see people passing by the streets, people on the campus, when the campus is full and lively of everyone. So that's what really attracts me to Southampton as a city. It's also on the south coast, which is another perk for me because the south coast is the sunniest part of the UK. And this is something that people would really appreciate when they come to the UK, the sun. It's not worth for me to move anywhere else to start a new beginning because I actually liked the lecturers here. I like the environment. I like the campus. And it's a very good university, so I should just stay here instead.
Now, I'm curious about how do you feel right now? Because some people who are doing PhD, they never thought that they're gonna do it. Like sometimes undergraduate students just think they want to, get some jobs, or even sometimes students at high school levels, they only think that, well, I'm gonna do just my undergraduate and then it's done. But then, how do you feel right now? Is there any, something that makes you feel sorry about, like about your decision, or how?
Not really. I knew I wanted to do a PhD since my second year of bachelor's degree. I would say PhD is less difficult than a master's degree,
Oh,
which sounds very controversial because master's degree is really packed within 1 year and you have to pass modules. You have an enormous amount of modules. You have an enormous amount of coursework. You have to work with deadlines. You have to work on group projects. You have to work on dissertation during an entire summer. So it feels really stressful. It feels like a very condensed period of time in which you have to do so much. And on top of that, you want to develop yourself. So you would like to join societies, you would like to be a student ambassador, and you would like to have some work experience. So it can get really hectic. And switching from a master's degree to a PhD, I felt really relieved because I could concentrate my mind on a topic. I could just go and read for an entire day or just write for an entire day. So it was really up to me. And it's also up to me whether I should stay at home and do it, whether I should go to a coffee shop, whether I should go to the library. There are no lectures in PhD, so that's a big difference. I would say the social aspect is something tricky that you need to keep mindful of, because it can very easily become a very antisocial experience working on a PhD. And if you don't go and push yourself to make friends, it's not going to work the same way as in a bachelor's degree and master's degree, because in those degrees you're kind of forced to go to lectures and to meet other people, and you see your course mates all the time, you go to coffee shops together. But in PhD it's very different. You sometimes some other PhDs, there are some gatherings, but it's just not the same social experience. But you can make it one if you really are a sociable person and would like to do it.
Okay.
Also, I think in terms of support, you get a lot of support in your bachelor's degree, you get less support in your master's degree, and you get even less support in your PhD. So I think it's a very individual type of experience as well.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think it might be a little bit easier for you because you also did your undergraduate in the UK, right? Like
yeah,
you know the environment already, you can adjust with it. And also, especially because you are European, so it's not so difficult for you to go back and forth like from your country to the UK, right?
yes, I would say
Yeah,
it's quite fairly easy. Yeah, there are a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
flights,
yeah,
and it takes me 3 hours to fly
yeah.
there.
Okay, talking about life, as you mentioned before, that sometimes it can lead us to become antisocial. And then, how do you cope with time management, particularly because you are also, if I'm not mistaken, you're also working at the uni, right? So actually, there's
Yeah,
some stuff that you fancy doing also, because if I'm not mistaken, you're also a big fan of yoga, for example.
yeah.
So how do you manage your time to have work-life balance in your life?
That's very tricky when you do a PhD, because there is a very fine line between keeping yourself busy enough to be organized, to be productive, to be motivated. And when you pass that line, you can get into burnout. It's a very, very thin line between this. So I can give you an experience of both because I just had it in my first year. So I'm the type of person that always signs up to a lot of things and like to be out there, working on several different projects, meeting several different people. I'm that kind of person. I've always worked at least 3 jobs within my degrees, on the side of my degrees. And this is what I did as well. So I work at the international office. Currently, I'm a peer advisor at Southampton Business School, and I am also the president of the Yoga Society. So technically, I'm doing 3 jobs and doing my PhD. But back in January, this really had a toll on me because I felt really stressed. I had lots of deadlines. I didn't know if what I'm producing with my PhD is good enough quality. And I ended up really stressed, really anxious, and really having a bad period of my life. So I decided that I should not pursue that. So in the future, I don't think I will continue doing as much stuff as I did previously, and I really need to concentrate on my PhD. So it's about recognizing when to stop. It's about also recognizing when to do things, because only doing a PhD can get quite boring. So I really suggest, yes, join societies, join other jobs like student ambassador jobs, because they're really nice. They don't take much of your time, and it's kind of a fresh air, a breath of fresh air from your PhD. This doesn't mean that you don't love your PhD or what you're doing. It just means that sometimes you just want to have a break.
Okay, well, also about doing PhD and also while having some stuff to do. So actually, what is the most challenging thing in doing this? Because sometimes it can be so stressful for some people, particularly if they're from different background. Like for example,
Yeah,
they live far away from Europe, so they do not really understand how it looks like, for example. But for you, I know that you are already familiar with the surrounding, with the environment, also with the system, even with the professors, right? So what
yeah.
is your most challenging thing in doing your PhD?
I would say the lack of support is one of the most challenging things. The fact that you have to go and find everything yourself, the fact that you're writing something and you don't know whether it's good enough quality. Yeah, so it's really about that. That's the difficult part of a PhD. And also, once you start writing, if you're not organized enough, you can get lost quite easily. If you read a book chapter, for example, and you don't highlight all the important bits, you will forget it in a matter of days, and you will forget you read that book.
Well, so yeah, it can be so stressful, particularly because of lack of support, which I think it's so
Yeah,
typical of education in the UK. Like some people call it as Socratic method, where the professors do not really, like they really helpful, but in a way that they want us to be independent, right? It's quite different
yeah,
from the education system in the USA, where like the professors they really focus on our progress sometimes. Like they really help us to work to be successful. But of course, it's not Socratic at all. But then the good thing is that we can survive, right? We can be independent, and I think that's so good.
yes. And another thing to just quickly add, that you mentioned US. Now I was thinking a little comparison between the UK and the US is that in the UK you are giving a lot less to do. For example, if you do a PhD, you're expected to do a 3-paper thesis, but in the US you're expected to do 20 papers sometimes.
That sounds good, but also trouble, like a lot of trouble there. Because I plan
Yeah.
to do my PhD in the US, but I still don't know. I mean, actually, UK is also good, but it's just because I want to explore another country to live, to
Hmm.
study. So I was wondering if it's possible for me to study in the US, but still, I don't know. Well, talking about PhD life as well, as you mentioned before, there are some challenges in your life. So how do you cope with your, personal entertainment? And do you sometimes like have party with your friends, or you go back to your home, like meet your family, or what do you do usually?
Yeah, so I usually meet my friends. I go to regular yoga classes. I've got a group of friends, yoga friends. Um, Apart from doing my PhD in my free time, I like to cook. I like to go to London to meet my friends. I go back home quite often. So I was just home this summer, back to Bulgaria, enjoying the beach life by the sea coast, enjoying lots of sunshine. I'm not the type of person that needs a lot of free time per se.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so that's good because sometimes some people they need so much free time. They want to have like party, or sometimes those things basically can distract our concentration on what we're doing, right? As you said before,
Yeah,
sometimes if we are reading a book and we just forget to highlight some important bits, then we can just forget it. And sometimes it can be distracted by those entertaining stuff, right? Like doing to concert. Well, so that's tricky in a way that it can help us to survive, but it can also distract our concentration on what we are doing. Well, so
yeah.
yeah, I'm also curious about your experience, your journey in getting this fluency. Because, as an international student, and you've been living in the UK for years, you know that even
Hmm.
there are some people who've been living in the UK, but sorry to say, their English is not good. Like,
Yeah,
they're still struggling. Even sometimes some students also face these troubles. Like, also, like, I have some experience when I talk to someone, and actually she is still struggling with the language, but she can survive. So in your own opinion, also based on your experience, how do you finally get this fluency?
I think there are two very important things that I can think of. Maybe I'll think of a third one once I develop my answer. So the first one is that you need to break out of your circle of your native friends. That is probably the most important thing. You need to, even if you don't like people from different cultures, you need to go out of your circle. Let's say I'm Bulgarian. So in my case, I never had any Bulgarian friends to go out with. I had only British people in my accommodation, so they were all my friends during first year. In second and third year, I had a lot of international friends from China, from Greece, from all over Europe, from Asia, Asian countries. So I was really pushed to go outside of my comfort zone, and I only spoke Bulgarian to my mom on the phone, and I spoke English anywhere else. And that is the most important thing. The second most important thing is surround yourself with English. Watch English movies, watch English videos on YouTube, read English books, and Google every word that you don't understand. And
Okay.
once you Google one word, let's say for 5 times because you forgot about it, you're going to remember it eventually. So these
Wow.
are the two most important things to have fluency in English. And also, don't be shy. And the third thing is just don't be shy. You will have an accent. Every international person has an accent. It's just about making that accent understandable to the audience, to people that you talk with. So you need to practice that. You need to practice your pronunciation to make it clear. And don't be afraid that you have an accent, because having an accent is not something bad. It's something that culturally enriches you. It's just this
Okay.
perception that many people have. Oh, I have an accent. I'm shy to speak to British people because they won't understand what I'm saying. That's fine. Just make yourself understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. So that shouldn't be a problem actually.
No, no, no.
Also,
I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. British people are really inclusive in this kind of sense because they've been surrounded by international people for years, if not centuries.
yeah.
So I think they like that bit of an accent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're also open, in my opinion. Well, if I can comment on your accent, I think your accent is like so international. You know, sometimes some people, even they're European, they still have their own accent, but your accent is just like international. So I cannot guess where you're from because your accent is just international. Like so many
Yeah,
people
I've
have
received this
this.
comment a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So many people have international accent that we, as the outsider, we cannot guess where they are from. Still talking about English. Actually, I was wondering how long have you been, learning English? Because now you have already reached that level of fluency, but then back to your first year of learning English, perhaps in your elementary school. How did it look like?
Interestingly, my first foreign language is German. I
Oh,
studied German for 7 years.
okay.
So that was in primary and middle school.
Mm-mm.
And I started studying English since high school. So that's eighth grade, since I was 13.
Mm-mm.
So when I was 13, I had first initial knowledge of English. And then I was able to develop that to a level of C1. I
Mm-mm.
think it's the Cambridge evaluation system for
Mm-mm.
English. I don't know if you know this Cambridge Advanced
CEFR.
Certificate.
Yeah, sometimes you call
Yeah,
it CEFR.
yeah. So my level there is C1,
Mm-mm.
was back then when I came to the UK. And when I came to the UK, I realized how less I know. I was actually thinking I was prepared,
Sorry, so
but
you came to the UK when you were doing your undergraduate, or before you also came to the
yeah,
UK?
that in my undergraduate in
Oh, okay.
2015.
Mm-mm. So that's
That
the
was
first time.
when I was already, yeah, when I
Oh.
was already in C1 level.
Mm-mm.
And I realized, oh, I don't know that much actually. And what helped me there is to have some time to start understanding people's accents, start learning new words, writing those down. And yeah, the first few weeks, I couldn't cope with the pace of how people were talking, especially British people, lecturers. It was very difficult for me to follow the lecturer's thoughts and the things that they were saying during a lecture. But after that initial month or two, I started hearing those words and they made a lot of sense in a sentence. So even if you're fully prepared for it, expect to not understand everything in the beginning. But after that initial period, it should all be fine with a little bit of an effort, of course.
Okay. So, you told me before that you also learned German. So, how is your German now? Are you still
My German is
comfortable to speak with
no
German?
my
No?
the thing with my German is I understand it,
Mm,
but I don't feel confident enough to produce it because it's been such a long time since I've studied it, and back then I didn't even study it that much. But now, after I know English so well, German makes a lot more sense.
now, I was also wondering what language do you feel comfortable to speak with? Because I also have a friend who's been living in the UK for like 7 or 8 years, and she told me that she forgets her first language. And actually, in my field, in language learning, we have a term called as language attrition, where some people lose their native language. And what do you feel now? I mean, like, are you still comfortable to speak with your Bulgarian language, or you think that your English is even much better and like you forget some words?
I do forget words. I'm not
Oh.
gonna lie to you. I do forget words in Bulgarian, and it's really confusing sometimes because when I was back in the summer, when I start talking to my friends, and I want to explain stuff like my PhD topic, for example, I
Mm.
don't know how to explain my PhD topic in Bulgarian or what I'm studying or what my knowledge is in university. It just takes me time to rephrase everything to Bulgarian. Of
Mm.
course, I can have a mixture of substitutions, like say something in Bulgarian, then say something in English, have a
Mm.
bit of a mixture because my friends all know English. But I don't like that because I really appreciate Bulgarian language. And every time, even though I struggle, I really want to look for the right words to say that. I don't want to use an Anglicized version. So I think it's not a myth that when people move to a country, they change their habits of speaking. It is actually true because many Bulgarians mock Bulgarians from abroad. When they go back to Bulgaria, they always find it funny how they forget words and they think they're pretending to be, all Western and that, but that's actually true. And it's really easy to forget words, especially when you don't practice your own language as often. But I wouldn't say that I feel absolutely comfortable speaking only in English, because sometimes I feel like I know a word in Bulgarian, but I don't know the English equivalent, just because Bulgarian language is very rich in words. So yeah, it just depends on what I'm talking about. If it's my PhD topic, if it's my studies, I definitely feel more comfortable in English. But if it's something like some things from my childhood, some Bulgarian items or some Bulgarian herbs, medicine, those kind of things, I always know the Bulgarian word, and that's always going to be more convenient for me to say.
Oh, okay. Also, there is a notion about language learning, especially for people who are already experts in some languages. Sometimes when they switch the language, then they also switch the culture, or at least the way they behave. Does it also apply to you? Like when you speak in Bulgarian, then your culture is like Bulgarian?
Yes, I think so. I think that that's very accurate and on point because I'm really polite when I'm in the UK, and
Oh.
I'm not polite in Bulgaria because that's people will think you're stupid if you're that polite in
Mm-mm.
Bulgaria. People will take advantage of you.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But in
yeah,
the
yeah.
UK, it's the norm to say often please, thank you, sorry, those
Mm,
kind of things. But in Bulgaria, you don't say that very often. You
mm-mm.
say it only when you actually genuinely mean it. But in the
Okay.
UK, it's like terminology. You have to say it just because that's the way to say it. That's the way
Mm-mm.
to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like saying sorry all the time, and also, being so polite, but sometimes it's also awkward for some international people like me, for example, because we also don't have that term. I mean, like we have the term, but we don't have that culture in my country.
Yeah, to use it
Also,
as often.
Yeah, sure. That's why I also try to adapt to the new surrounding when I was in the UK. Also about the one that you mentioned before, some Bulgarian like mock people who are from other countries, like from the UK, and try to speak English, like they think it's pretending. Basically, it also happens in Indonesia. So sometimes people just think that, wow, you are pretending to be something else, like you want to show that, wow,
Yeah.
you're great, you're much prestigious or something, but actually, yeah, it happens a lot. Sometimes we forget some words. Also, sometimes we feel more comfortable to speak in certain language. Well, that's normal. And so you're also a proof of that situation.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, so you have already given some tips on how to be fluent in English. Then I'm gonna ask you, perhaps this is like the last question that I have. It's about the values that you learn, or the values that you get during your journey. Like, I can say that you try to go out of your comfort zone since you are already like quite young, right? So before 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think that's so young. So that's a transition between teenager to adult. And what values do you learn so far?
What values I learned is that I should appreciate my health the most.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I learned that in the hard way. Health always comes first. You can stop your studies, but you cannot just postpone your health issues because they come eventually. Another thing is try not to say no to new opportunities. Yes, if your schedule is too overwhelmed, of course you're gonna have to say no because that's normal. But if there isn't too many things, but you just feel too lazy to do something, don't feel lazy. Just go ahead and do it because you're now in a different country. And it's really interesting to meet new people, to see what's happening out there. Because one day when you go back to your country, for example, if you decide to go back to your country, you will realize, oh, there were so many things that I missed. I didn't join any society and I could have. I wasn't a student ambassador and I should have been, because these are all interesting and fun experiences. Even if you don't like them, it's still a nice experience to have because you will know you certainly don't like this.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. So, Ivan, thank you so much. You have been so helpful. Like, I myself didn't realize before that you were willing to do this one, because we actually
Yes, of
only
course.
met several times. If I'm not mistaken, we only met twice or three times, but
Yeah,
you were
and
so
we're on the
kind.
cover of the prospectus
Yeah.
together.
But then I feel so happy that I got that chance. Finally, I can know you, and also you are a friend of my friends, Brigitte. So yeah, that's so kind of
Yeah.
nice coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah. But I hope everything's all right there, and also you can do well on your study, on your PhD. Good luck for your future. Again, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time for doing this.
No worries. It was a pleasure for me, and good luck on getting a PhD as well in the US.
Thank you.